This is week 2 of Haha Oh No. Last week I told a story about an Uber, which doesn't sound very scary.
An Uber?
An Uber.
An Uber driver?
An Uber, well yeah, it was meant, yeah, it looked like an Uber, but it was actually about the creepy Android Uber driver.
Yeah.
But go and check that out if you haven't seen that yet, you're joining us for week 2. And we're doing alternate stories. So last week was me, this week is Jack. So Jack's gone away and written a scary story over the past week, and now I'm going to hear it. So after you've watched my one from last week and you've watched this one, then let us know in the comment section which one scared you, or who was just a better story.
Which one's better?
Yeah.
Because last week I gave you a 6.5.
6.5.
Was it 6.5?
Yes.
6.5?
Yes, you gave it a 6 to a 6.5, I think you said.
I think I did. Okay.
So yeah.
So the scale's there.
Yeah.
That's the first benchmark.
Yes.
Oh, I'm nervous.
6.5.
I'm nervous.
I'm nervous for you, but I'm also very excited to be spooked.
Mine is a little bit longer than yours.
I know, yeah. Yeah.
So maybe I'll get points for that. Or maybe I won't. Maybe it will detract.
Maybe I might switch off.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
You might switch off.
I might switch off the camera. It's too long.
Cut.
Alright.
We're going in?
We're going in.
Are you the scene set?
You gotta set the scene.
Alright. This is a story called The Nanny, which is, I don't know how you feel about nannies. I'm already scared.
I've had some pretty scary nannies.
Yeah?
Yeah.
See how scary this one is.
This is a story about a kid named Seth. Seth was 6 years old and he lived on the 28th floor of the Steel Mills apartment complex with his mum Jodie. It was just the two of them, so every Saturday before work, Seth would get up at 6 AM and cook blueberry waffles for his mum. Well, he'd try and cook them. Jodie would always be awake before he could pour the mix in the waffle press.
But he was learning. He'd get quicker every time.
Jodie worked 2 jobs. During the week, she ran the phones for a taxi cab company downtown, and at the weekend, she'd bartend double shifts at a dive bar called Bustin' Phillies.
Seth had never been. He was 6. And his mum said he probably wouldn't like it anyways. The hours were long, but with her hourly rate plus tips, they always managed to make rent.
It meant though that Seth was alone every weekend.
During the week it was fine. Seth walked with his mum to school, and by the time she'd finished her shift at the cab company, he'd only have to wait 20 or 30 minutes on the school steps. It wasn't perfect by any means, but they got by.
Every Saturday morning after blueberry waffles, Jodie and Seth would do the door trick when she left for work. There were 3 thick bolts, a chain, and a deadlock on their apartment door.
Jodie would leave Saturday morning cartoons running for Seth, and after she closed the door, she'd wait in the hallway to hear the clicks.
Seth would slide the first bolt, then knock. The second bolt, knock. The third, knock. The chain, knock.
Then the deadbolt, knock. That one was the hardest. Seth really had to stretch to reach it, but he'd get it every time. He was a growing kid.
Jodie would pause, then knock back 5 times, 1 for each of the locks.
That was their system, and it worked. When she finished her shift and made it home, usually just after 10,
Jodie would bang 5 times on the door, then wait 5 seconds, and knock 1 final time so Seth knew it was her. He'd count down eagerly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Mum's home. Usually, Saturday mornings flew by. By the time Thundercats had finished playing,
Seth would make himself a bologna sandwich and do some colouring. Lately he'd been working on a pretty big piece. It was a space station for robots, and it was parked right next to a big, huge sun. Seth thought it was the best thing he'd ever drew, so far anyway, and he was super excited to show Jodie when she got off from work.
but this is a story about a kid named Seth, and tonight was the first night that his mum never made it home.
It was just after 11 when Seth first started to really worry. He was on the sofa with a blanket staring at the apartment door, waiting to hear his mum's knock. After 12, Seth started to cry a little. And when the clock struck 1 AM,
He realised that he'd never stayed up this late before, not even when he pretended to be asleep on Jodie's lap while she had a glass of wine.
when dawn came, Seth realised that he'd fallen asleep on the sofa. And for a brief moment, he felt a sigh of relief that this whole thing was just a bad dream. But Jodie still wasn't there. It was just Seth. He thought about making blueberry waffles. Maybe his mum had an accident at work and she'd be running through the door any minute with a bandage on her head. Give him a kiss and let him know how sorry she was.
Maybe she'd have the day off from work and Seth could show her his colouring of the robot station by the sun. Seth didn't make blueberry waffles in the end though. Jodie was always there to work the press. But then he heard the knock on the door. 2 slow raps. 1, 2. That wasn't there knock. Seth sat bolt upright, staring at the apartment door. 1, 2.
He couldn't open it. That wasn't his mum. That wasn't the door trick. Silence. Then 1, 2. Seth crept over to the door. Maybe he could slide a chair over quietly and look through the peephole, but no, he thought. That would make too much noise. 1, 2. He froze and then the door handle rattled. Someone was trying to get in. Seth ran back to the sofa and jumped underneath the blanket. He didn't know what to do. That wasn't Jody at the door.
That wasn't his mom.
He stared at the door for what felt like forever, all the while that methodical knocking keeping rhythm. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.
And then it stopped. Seth cocked his head. It felt like that knocking had been going on for hours, and now, all of a sudden, it had stopped. Maybe they'd given up. Maybe he thought whoever was behind the door was just checking on Seth. Maybe they knew where his mum was. Maybe they were trying to help all along. He jumped off the sofa and sprinted to the door, hoping to catch them in the hallway. He bumped off the first 3 bolts, slid off the chain, then jumped up to reach the deadbolt. He got it. And then swung open the apartment door.
And a woman was standing there. Seth saw her shoes first, pointed brown plimsolls, nothing like what his mum would ever wear. He looked up, a cream dress, a beige cardigan, and a woman. She was smiling at him. It was the kind of smile the nurse at school would give when the class was lining up for shots.
The kind of smile that isn't a smile at all. "Hello, Seth," she said. "My name is Lisa."
Seth tried to close the door. He knew something wasn't right from the off, but the woman butted her foot in the way and the door flung open.
She stepped into the apartment clutching a brown leather bag, and her gaze shifted around the room as if she was scanning her surroundings. "Shall we make you some lunch, Seth? It's almost 1 p.m. "Where's my mum?" said Seth. The woman smiled, and she turned around to close the door. She clicked the locks quicker than a blur, then made her way to the kitchen fridge. "Where's my mum?" said Seth. "She was supposed to be home last night." "Just baloney," said the woman. "That won't do at all. A growing boy of 6 years old needs to have nutritious vitamins and minerals."
What's this? These will do just fine. She took a punnet of blueberries from the fridge and placed them in front of Seth. She smiled at him again.
Seth shook his head. "These are for waffles. I'll make them for when my mum gets back." "Oh, Seth," she said, smiling all the while, "your mother won't be coming back."
Seth froze for a minute. He didn't want to, but he couldn't help it either. His nose started snotting, tears started streaming down his cheek. He didn't want to cry in front of this woman. He had never even cried in front of his mum, but she knelt down in front of him, and then she brushed his cheek.
Her hands were cold. She hugged him. At first it felt like he was being crushed, but something came over him. He was sad. He just wanted his mum so he could show her his drawing of the space station and the robots by the sun. He didn't want to, but he hugged her back. But when he wrapped his arms around the woman, his hand brushed the back of her neck. There was something there on her skin. Something that felt like metal. Like a pin, or a badge, or a button. For the next few days, it was just Seth and Lisa in the apartment. She wouldn't let him watch cartoons, and she wouldn't even let him go to school.
Instead, they sat at the kitchen table and she tried to make Seth do his multiplication tables. He hated them. He just wanted to draw and do his colouring, but the woman would scrunch them up and throw them in the trash can. After the first week, Seth got sick. He wouldn't take her medicine though, the stuff that she kept in a brown leather bag, so
she chased him into the bathroom and stuck a needle in his arm. It hurt so much, but she said it would make him better. Another week had passed and Seth still hadn't even left the apartment. He sat on the sofa with a blanket over his head, tracing his drawing of the space station and the robots by the sun into the pillow. The woman just paced around the apartment endlessly,
cleaning everything. But then he heard the knock. Seth's heart started racing.
He thought he was imagining it, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then he paused. He hoped so hard for that final thud to come. 5 seconds. He counted each and every one of them. and then the knock. He jumped off the sofa, threw the blanket aside and raced to the door. He flicked the locks, all 3 bolts, the chain and the deadlock, and he swung open the door. It was his mom. It was Jodie. He burst into tears. He was so happy to see her again. He hugged her legs so hard and he never wanted to let go. His mom smiled at him and bent down to hug Seth. But when he threw his arms around her shoulders, his hand brushed something. It was cold and metal, like a badge, a pin, or a button. He looked up from her shoulders and Jodie was smiling at him. The kind of smile that isn't a smile at all. "Hello, Seth," she said.
Keep going. Wow. That's a tease, because like, come on, I want to know what happens now. I want to know what happens.
I know, we never will.
And that's the scariest part. That I don't know. Like, I think I would have been less scared if I'd known. If it just ended and went, oh, that's really fucking terrifying. Anyway, but like, now I'm just kind of left with this uneasy feeling, which is a credit to you. But that's like Mary Poppins from hell.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to go for.
It's
Mary
kind
Poppins from hell.
But it's kind of like, you know, the way she was behaving at the start wasn't actually that. If you think about these kind of quaint movies like Mary Poppins, just if you've never seen that, and I said to you, a woman arrives, she walks in and says, "Take your medicine."
Yep.
And starts telling them what to do and changing their life, and the parents just aren't around.
Yep.
If I told you that with a very straight face, you go, "That sounds horrifying."
Yep.
But because you go, "It's a spoonful of sugar," then that's
Mary
okay.
Poppins.
Then it's all right. But
Yeah.
you've kind of completely, you've deconstructed how creepy it is really to have strangers turn up and look after children.
Yeah, and that is scary. You know, from the perspective of a kid who, you know, perhaps is in the social care sphere of influence, you know. There's so many kids across this planet who are just in a room for days on end.
Exactly, yeah.
And that's terrifying, dude. That's
And
terrifying.
That's their world, isn't it?
Yeah. But yeah, dude, I think like we had a conversation about the real things that I think we spoke about in the last episode as well, is that there's so much fear in the world that's like very real. So, but also you did inspire me to go for an Android-esque kind of idea. So that kind of rubbed that off you. Sorry, mate.
I had to give you points.
Yeah.
For that.
That was trying to appeal to your.
Well, I think that was like the icing on the cake. I think it was scary enough. Just a woman.
Just someone barging in, like.
Yeah, because, and also the idea of like meeting strangers and having to interact with them or figure things out is something adults are pretty equipped to do, but not kids.
No.
Do you know what I mean? The only way you meet strangers as kids is through your parents. They're kind of like your base to explore and to meet new people. You don't meet them otherwise.
Exactly, and kids always know as well. Kids always know when something's up.
Yeah,
that's a quality that like.
I like the way that like he just instinctively knew not to take the pills or something.
Yeah,
because that is something that kids would just get a bad feeling.
By the way, this is not endorsed. This isn't an anti-vax.
Oh yeah. It turns out this whole channel, and every video has a subtle theme of anti-vax.
Take your medicine, kids. Take your medicine. What are we doing?
If you get vaccinated, then she'll come for you. The knocking was great as well, and I think that played into the whole thing about how like kids as well get so used to routines. You know, I think there's so many studies that have shown that like it doesn't have to be a routine the way that we call it a routine as adults, but they like familiar things that happen.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it makes them feel safe and grounded, and they start to understand how the world works. And for him, that was his bait. That was his whole world was revolving around those knocks and stuff. Once you know that that's just such an ingrained part of his life, the first time it doesn't happen is terrifying. In a way that I don't know if it would scare a lot of adults, because we know that you have your routines, but things can
someone knocking on the door isn't scary.
No,
to an extent, but for a kid who knows no one's going to talk to him other than his mom, you know.
Yeah, well, that routine is like is integral to, you know, his safety.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I like discussing it, but I kind of want to ask, like, what, like, I want to know more. But maybe they like it. We could do a part 2.
Maybe it could be the Nanny part 2. But you know, a sequel's really all the hype. Isn't it the fact that we don't know?
Yeah, I know.
What's scary.
That's what I said. That is terrifying. I think it's time for me to start coming up with a score.
Oh.
Um,
Oh my god, this is tense. This is tense, dude.
Are we doing so? Are we doing decimals? So we're doing like blank point blank, you know?
Yeah.
Okay.
I quite like
that makes it a lot easier.
Yeah. Yeah, anywhere between the 0.5 and 0.3 or whatever you want to do. It's a point system.
Calculating some things in my head.
Oh god.
I'm going over theme, characters, plot, writing quality.
I feel like at the end of the X Factor,
Originality.
am I going to boot camp?
Oh no, boot camp.
Am I going to boot
It's
camp?
just going to be here, same time next week.
Boot camp's here, but it's your turn.
Welcome to my boot camp. It's a 7.3.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
7? No, that's too high.
No, it's not.
That's too high.
It's not.
7.3.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm honoured.
I think
I'm honoured.
I think it's enough to, because my remember what I said that my criteria, well our criteria I think for like giving out 8s or 9s are we turn the camera off and you can't stop start thinking about it. A 10 is like it literally ruins your day or your week. Like it's horrifying. Or it changes you forever. You're scared of that forever. Yeah, and like let's say I told you a scary story about I don't know wine bottles, right? And for some reason that was a 10. Then for the rest of your life you won't be able to see a wine bottle the same way. That's a 10. So a 9 would be less and an 8. But the fact that you gave an ending that is going to make me go away and still keep thinking about it has pushed it over a 7. Without that, it just would have been a solid 7 would have been. That's really creepy, good writing, a 7. But yeah, it's left me with something, which I think is a good thing about a story. If it's left you with something.
If you're not changed in any way after reading the story,
exactly,
didn't do its job, really, did it?
So yeah, I'm gonna give you a 7.3.
What do you guys think? 7.3?
Yeah,
I'm honoured. I didn't think I'd. That's it.
I mean,
I've peaked now.
That's not.
Nothing. Don't expect anything better than that.
That's not to say. We'll see about next week. I do think that we should aim for shorter ones, maybe.
Yeah, that was a bit long. I did get a little bit carried away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think mine was too short this week, so it evens itself out a bit.
So, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
In between the middle, maybe.
But I think that went really well. So I guess Jack won this week. I guess Jack's in the lead, and
well, we can't really win because. Oh, okay. In the lead.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
In the lead.
Yeah.
But who's
That's
constantly-
nice. It's constantly.
Yeah.
There's never just a blatant.
No.
You're down.
Yeah. Well, I said that to you because if one person gets too far ahead, what's the point?
What's the point?
Checking again. I'm still 93 points behind Jack. But tune in next week where I can get a maximum of 10 to catch up. I get a 10. It's like he's only 83 points behind. But yeah, guys, so make sure you check out the first week's one. I'm going to make sure that's appearing on the screen just after this little outro I'm doing now. It's also going to be in the description box, maybe in the comment section. Do hashtag Jack or hashtag Danny. Let us know which one you like more. Also, just like last week, let us know what kind of scary stories you want us to talk about. We are going to be flashing up an email address right now for you guys to send in your own scary stories. Eventually, if we have time, we're going to start including more of your guys' stories, more submissions, and get you guys involved. But for now, it's just going to be me next week.
Just you. Where am I?
Just me next week. No, just me doing the story next week. No submissions. So make sure you come back next week.
All my hands
Fire.
are. Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't take advantage of this.
I've also, if anyone's paying attention, I've just had my legs.
Your legs are very warm there.
Definitely a real fire. Anyway,
Anyway,
thanks for watching.
thanks for watching. Ha ha. Oh no.
See you next week.
Bye bye. I like doing that. Oh Jesus.